My philosophy totally is don't look back. And I know it sounds cliche, but you're not going that way. I looked at a lot of my peers and decided I don't want to behave how you behave. I don't want to lead how you lead. I don't think you can learn to sell in a way that feels so naturally to you. I think you can enhance skills if you feel that you don't have them. I definitely was used as a tool to send at the time a young, attractive, bubbly girl out to close the deal with these men in suits, really. And when I think back now, I think, it's been very, very, very hard. I didn't want it to go. And you know what? I had a very comfortable lifestyle, very good income. We'd built the other business to where at the top of its game. I was there, everything. And people say to me, I don't know if you're brave or mad.
Well, we'll find out. Welcome to the Business Sense podcast. I'm Gary Crosby. This is the podcast where we make sense of the business journey by talking to owners about what they've learnt along the way. Let's jump into today's episode. Lorena, thanks for joining me on the Business Sense podcast. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you for having me, Gary.
I want to explore all aspects of what you've done as a business owner, but let's just start with your philosophy on life, because I know some people like stability, some people like adventure. Where are you? I
do like adventure, and I like calculated chaos, if that's the right way to put it. And my philosophy totally is don't look back. Because, and I know it sounds cliche, but you're not going that way.
Isn't it the royal family's thing? They say never explain, never regret. Is that a royal family thing?
Yeah, probably. But it's more this hankering people have for looking back constantly, and the nostalgia and how it was and how this and how that, especially on social media. So for me, that's something that's a bit of a how I like to live is just look forward.
Yeah. Great philosophy. And take responsibility, right? That's what we have to do in life.
Yeah, always be accountable for every decision that you make and every act and everything that you do. People do say that can be chaotic to work with and live with, but it's all organised chaos. Does that make sense?
Right, calculated chaos.
It's calculated
and organised chaos.
Yeah, it is. And I know I'm quite unique in the way that I work, and I haven't worked with many people over my career. It's best just to leave me alone, really, because I'm a creative, but I'm also, I love leading and I love strategy behind business, but I'm absolutely atrocious at writing it down until I have to.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on in the head, and
there's 1,000 tabs open.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, and it does me good, sometimes you're held accountable as a business owner. And then you have to write a document and you have to explain what your strategy is and where you're at with it and what you're doing. And then I quite enjoy doing that because it feels like being back at uni doing dissertations and things. So then I once I lock myself in my office and get started on that, I can do 2,000, 3,000 words on the strategy and where we're going. And it does me good to write it down. But on a day-to-day working level, I'm not very good at writing things down.
And did you learn about leadership and strategy from a role model in your past? Was there somebody that you saw and thought, I'd like to be like that? How did that come about?
I tell you what, I did see people who I didn't want to be like. So for me, going through my career and being a female leader, I looked at a lot of my peers and decided I don't want to behave how you behave. I don't want to lead how you lead. So in terms of that, I think on a personal level, when I became a mother 21 years ago, and I was also a business leader at that time for somebody else's business, the fact that I did that made me a better leader. So my style was derived, I think, from that period in my life, really. Having to juggle so many things.
Yeah, I think back to my Air Force career, there were people that I would follow to the end of the earth to find out, what treasures lay there. Yeah. And there were people that I wouldn't. And I guess that's the same for all of us. So you're now the co-owner of Swaffer in Peterborough. Just tell me about the background to that. How do we get to the point where you were thinking about investing in and becoming a co-owner in another business? I'd
met Janet and Martin, who were running the business a few years before through the industry. So we were in the same industry. Yeah. So I have always been in the interiors market from the beginning of my career, actually. And I met them and got on really well with them. We were at a trade show. We began speaking. We became friends. And then when we were attending the shows, I'd go for dinner with them because I was often by myself. And as I said, we became friends. And then they said, why don't you come to see us at Swaffer when you're visiting family? I had family in Cambridgeshire. Yeah. So I think it was October 2019. I went to visit them. And I walked into the building and there were bolts and bolts of fabric everywhere. There was like racking full of fabric. And I felt at home.
Right.
And I grew up in the rag trade with my mum. So I think that was definitely something that was intrinsically there already, and seeing that brought it out. And then we began speaking, and as the time transpired, they said that Janet wanted to not be an owner anymore, but they didn't want to sell it completely. So we started a conversation.
Right.
And then it took about probably 6-7 months, if not a bit longer, to arrive at there was a few other things on the table. And it took about 7 months to arrive at, actually, do you know what? COVID happened. My biggest account on my previous business went out of business, Laura Ashley. They were the biggest account I dealt with on white label product. So all these things were happening, and you know, we did have meetings and Zoom meetings, because obviously it was during the pandemic. And then we arrived at a decision that I'd buy Janet out. I'd invest some money into the business, and that the Swaffer brand could remain, because at that point it was very precarious of what was going to happen next, and it was established, you know, now 50 years ago by Anne and Robert Swaffer.
So thinking about your life in the rag trade, you must have learnt a lot along the way in that environment.
Yeah, I did. My mother, to be fair, she's a real character. And when I was thinking about it this morning on the way in, I was thinking, you know, there was I. So I was, you know, I'm 51. So it was the late 70s, early 80s. And my mother was a salesperson, really. She was and she started off in a American saucepan brand called Renaware.
Right.
And then after that, she'd done so well, she got headhunted by another American vacuum cleaner brand called Kirby Hoovers.
Yeah.
So I remember being probably 8 or 9 and being with her at 9, 10 o'clock at night in very huge houses in Hadley Wood, just on the edge of North London, doing demonstrations of how to cook steak without using fat to cook on water on these pans.
Yes, yeah.
And there was 20 or 30 people, and these people are, I mean, I won't mention names, but they're very high up in the retail rag trade still, the families. And I remember that was just normal. So my mother worked, she had 4 children, I was the youngest, and I was with her the most. So then she got a retail shop in Holborn, and there were many, many days when I wasn't at school because I wasn't well.
Yeah.
And I used to go with her to Margaret Street, behind Oxford Street, to buy the product. So they do little fashion shows and you could choose. So then my mum would say, well, what do you like? And I'd say, I think that dress looks nice. And that literally I was buying. Yes. At a very young age without knowing what I was doing. And then obviously I would man the boutique when she was going to the bank.
Yeah.
And I think, my love of selling and buying and selling was always there. Because I think they're very closely connected.
And salespeople, I mean, we often hear this question asked, you know, are they born or made? You were born into it, but do you learn to become a good salesperson?
I don't think you can learn. I don't think you can learn to sell in a way that feels so naturally to you. I think you can enhance skills if you feel that you don't have them.
Yeah.
But I think there are a few things we are born with, and I honestly believe. But for me, the sale is not even about product.
No.
It's about the person. It's about the people.
Yes.
You know, and Martin always says, we'll have a 2-hour appointment. 15 minutes will be actually selling product knowledge and discussing it. The other hour and 45 will be waffling on about everything and getting to know people. Because actually, I like people. Yes. It is the truth. But I do love fabric.
Yeah. So a great grounding in the rag trade with your mum. What happened after that?
So after that, I used to do performing arts when I was a child, when I was young, and I did a stint on a very well-known children's series on BBC, which I won't mention, for a few years. So I was away a lot from school at Elstree.
As a child?
Filming, which I really enjoyed. So I didn't really like school, I'm going to be honest with you. And any excuse to get out of school was very welcome. I was a round peg in a square hole. It just wasn't for me.
But how do you fall into being in a BBC children's programme?
Well, I used to go to performing arts school every Saturday.
Ah, right.
So it's something we all did, like in the era of Fame. Do you remember Irene Cara's Fame?
Yes.
Yeah, that. So, I loved a bit of all that on a Saturday. So then it just came in, you had auditions, and I did a few bits of work. So where was I going? Yes, I was in performing arts, and then I was going to study that. I was going to carry on doing that. And then I started thinking, what if that doesn't work? What if I don't make it? What if this? What if that?
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to go to university.
Right.
So my whole life, I was not academic. I really wasn't academic. I'm not mainstream, and I think out the box, and I know what I think, and I know how I want to learn, and I didn't like school. So I went to college, did my A-levels, then I worked for a year, and it was in that year I thought, I'm not doing the rest of my life. Horrific administration job.
Yes.
It was not for me, for a travel company.
Right. Okay. So you went to university though?
Yeah, I went to university through clearing.
Yeah.
Picked up the phone. And I was going to do law. And I still regret it, actually. I still regret that course wasn't running that year. I don't know what happened, but anyway, they weren't running it. So they went through a list and they said, well, what do you want to study? And they were saying economics and this and that political thing. I was thinking, oh no. And then they said marketing and business. And I thought, okay, I quite like this.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then, studied that for 4 years. And I found some of my assignments a few years ago in the loft, and actually some of them, the sales strategy is amazing. I have to say, I think I knew more then than I do in terms of strategy.
Dust them off and...
but in the reality of it's very different. Yeah, so
that led to, employment, shall we say, a career, which sounds to me like, from what you've said earlier, that you were back in the rag trade in a way, or working in soft furnishings. You said you were working...
Well, initially, so I hadn't finished university yet, and in those days you'd go and look in the Evening Standard for jobs in London, where I grew up. So I got the Evening Standard, started circling a few things, and I found this job for a company called Techno SPA, and I thought, what's this? And it was Italian furniture manufacturers in Milan.
Yes.
And they had a showroom, and they were looking for someone to do telemarketing in those days. So telemarketing, to phone up and make the appointment for the for the sales team to go in.
That's a hard gig.
Oh, I tell you, I bought a house after that 2 years in that job.
Right. So you've got the gift of telemarketing.
Well, because let's put it this way. This was 1996, 97.
Yeah.
I graduated. And this job at the time, without talking about money, had a basic of, I think, 16,000. But every appointment you made for the sales team, you got £10 for.
Oh, wow.
Now, I mean, that was a lot of money in those days, wasn't it? Yeah. So obviously I had to make 40, 50 appointments a week because there were 6 of them. And once I got on the phone, they were not being released until they made an appointment. But it was good. It was architects and the Reba library updates and interior designers. So it was furniture, but it was very expensive Italian furniture.
So that telemarketing philosophy, they're not being released until they've made an appointment. Yeah. Did you learn that from somebody else, or did you just literally, I'll just be Lorena and that's it?
I just picked up the phone.
Yeah.
They gave, they bought data, they bought lists. But in the end, I used to do my own research as well. And this was before the internet. This was like...
Just before,
This was paper. You had to write things down and get things. Yeah. But I actually loved it. And in the end, obviously, what the natural progression was, I got too good at telemarketing. So then the people in Milan wanted me to go out and sell, because obviously that would have been worth a lot. And they used to do big one-off bespoke furniture jobs for like Bank Paribas. I think they had a boardroom table which was like 450,000 made or something stupid. Yeah. And I was on commission, so you can imagine.
Yeah,
I was very happy to be to be sent out. So I used to get wheeled out. But thinking about it now, in hindsight, and without being political, and I definitely was used as a tool. To send, at the time, a young, attractive, bubbly girl out to close the deal with these men in suits, really.
Yeah.
And when I think back now, I think, I think I was treated a little bit differently because I was female.
Yeah. Yeah, and undoubtedly back in those times, there was a different approach to...
Totally different. But the point is, we lived it. Mm-hmm. We didn't question it.
No.
We did what we were asked to do.
Did you ever feel threatened, or
I think I alluded to it because there was one incident where I definitely did feel very uncomfortable.
Right.
And then I felt if I speak out and if I say this to my boss, he's going to be upset because we're going to lose the deal. But I'm not for sale.
Yes. Yeah.
So I had to learn very quickly how to handle myself. But it was different times, Gary. It was different times. It was not acceptable the way women were treated in business. And I'm glad that it's different now.
Yeah.
Very glad.
Yeah. I think we all are.
Definitely me.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're selling furniture for giant Italian manufacturers. To close the gap for me between that and the moment when the spark ignited and you thought, right, I want to be in with Swaffer.
So basically, to cut to the chase, so I went to work for this Milanese company through the Italian community. A friend of the managing director's wife, next door neighbour's cat, I always say, somebody connected, and somebody came to the showroom in Coventry Square at the time, an Italian entrepreneur, and he said, "Oh, come and work for me. I've got my own business in North London. I've been going a few years now. I make handcrafted curtain poles, and I need somebody to do the sales and marketing and everything." And I thought this guy was hilarious. Had a big Salvador Dali moustache. Anyway, so I looked at him and I thought, okay. Anyway, but he also wouldn't leave it, and I was getting more and more despondent with the role I was in. I'd been there 3 years, and it was difficult. Either I was going to go out and sell, or I was not, and I didn't know really if that was for me. Anyway, so I just took a leap of faith. I went to see this guy. Ramshackle premises in North London, back of Holloway Road. Right. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm going from Cavendish Square to this. And then I thought, anyway, I liked him, and he employed me as a sales manager. And I think I started there in January 1990. I would like to say it was 99. Probably, I think it was 99. And then literally I stayed there for 22 years with him. We built the business. Yeah. So... the creativity, the product, the knowledge, the industry, everything was learnt there. Yeah.
And so you have this meeting with Janet and Martin, and you have these conversations over a long period of time. There must have been a moment in your mind where you went, right, this is for me. I'm going to go and do this.
Yeah, I think there were two moments. One when I went there in October of 2019 and I felt at home. And the second was there was another... company who wanted to buy them out and take it over, and they were very concerned about their staff, and about taking the business out of Peterborough, and about who they were talking to at the time. So there started to be conversations, and I said, you know what, if this is what you're looking for, this amount, and this is what's needed to like try and turn the business around, I'm happy to go for it. And to be fair to Janet Martin, they did try and dissuade me, both of them.
Right.
They did.
Really?
Yeah, they really did. Because they're honestly really nice, straightforward people, and honest and full of integrity. Full of integrity. And they said, we don't want you to lose your money if it doesn't work.
But you saw something in clearly in terms of, you said you felt at home, but there must also have been this thought about the future and how this brand could continue. What were you seeing then?
I was seeing a business that had been there for 50 years nearly at that time. It was not going to survive without sales direction and some investment. And I just thought it was too beautiful to throw it away, to let it go. The designers at the time and the artists that Swaffer, Anna Robert Swaffer used, were the same people that were working on Laura Ashley product. Yeah. And I worked very closely with Laura Ashley for 2 decades. And I just didn't want it to go. I didn't want this quintessentially British brand that had been, in the arena for this long, just to vanish. I didn't want that to happen. No. And, at great expense, at great cost to us all, financially, emotionally, mentally. It's been very, very, very hard. I didn't want it to go. And you know what? I had a very comfortable lifestyle, very good income. We'd built the other business to where at the top of its game. I was there, everything. And people say to me, I don't know if you're brave or mad.
Well, we'll find out, because I would like to explore the challenges. But just before we do that, just give us a feeling for what Swaffer is and what it does, and what its position is in the market. Okay,
so Swaffer is a what they call fine furnishing fabric. So it's a trade business to business only fabric house, and they've always designed their own products and collections. So it's much like the fashion world. You bring out collections twice a year. So you have your spring, summer, your autumn, winter. That's the old way of doing things. Obviously, as you can imagine, I've come in and broken the mold, and I launch collections as and when we want to launch them. Yeah, and usually around the time when no one else is. So for me, it lands better. Yeah. Anyway, so they had a lot of market share in export. The Britishness of the brand and the design was very popular in export. And I'd worked a lot in export in the past. So I wanted to retain it. I wanted to keep the integrity of this main Swaffer brand with its quintessentially British florals and develop that. But I also wanted to introduce a sub-brand into that to make it more accessible, more affordable, fun, and a bit more me, because so I can put in my animal prints and wacky colours and the designs that Swaffer wasn't known for. Because it got a bit staid, it got a bit staid. But in terms of market position, the quality of the product we do is up there with the big brands, the very big British brands who charge, their retails are a lot more than ours. So our market position is, we're still very well known in the UK. We're probably known more in Europe, I would say. There's parts of Europe where Swaffer is absolutely like a top brand in the fabric world, which I find amazing, but very...
And is that people, manufacturers making furniture with the fabrics, or curtain manufacturers, or...
So we do... our business is split really between curtain making, drapery, soft furnishings, headboards, cushions, that kind of thing, to upholstery, which is sofas and chairs. A big part of the business is that, upholstery.
So I'm already starting to see that kind of, not calculated chaos, but kind of marketing genius coming into play. You're now done the deal with Janet and Martin, and you're the co-owner of Swaffer. Thinking about those first few months, what were the real challenges for you integrating yourself really into a business that's been there for a long time?
In hindsight, I don't know how we all coped, especially Martin, because I'd come in from running a business with 60 employees. They were all reporting. I had line management structure. I was there, and whatever I needed to happen, there were people to do it, and that's how it was. And all of a sudden, there was nobody to do anything. We had to do it ourselves. And I was like, that Martin was like, we haven't got people to do that kind of thing. We have to do it ourselves. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to become very hands-on. So that was a challenge. And obviously they had some archaic ways of working, because those ways were introduced by Anne and Robert 47 years previously. And of course, the world has changed, times has changed. So how many times I heard, well, this is how we've always done it, and this is how it is, and but that's not how it can be moving forward. So so the first 6 months, I think, was spent in a little bit with heads locked, and me behaving how I would have behaved in my previous business, and realising this is not going to work here. This is not going to work. I have to adapt, and they have to adapt. But the staff were very welcoming. They were absolutely amazing, supportive. Most of them have been there over 20 years.
You see, a lot of people, and I'm not tarring the employees of Swaffer with this brush, but a lot of people I meet are resistant to change. And obviously this whirlwind has now come into the Swaffer universe.
Tornado.
And is full of ideas, bright ideas. That's a leadership challenge for you, isn't it? To go in there and convey that in a way that keeps the team still with you.
I have to say they were behind us from day one, and they still are. Those people, honestly, now I understand why Janet and Martin did not want to sell that company, because of the staff. Because they are what makes Swaffer. They all of them, everyone collectively, the absolute love. They don't do it for the money. I can assure you, none of us are doing it for the money currently. But it doesn't matter to them. That's their home. It's part of their life. A lot of them, they've been through their whole life, personal issues, career, sat in that building. So it is about the people, and they didn't. Occasionally they disagree with me, Karen, believe it or not, and then we have a conversation, and then we find a way through it.
And is that? I mean, I guess that's also a leadership challenge to think about succession and the next generation of Swaffer employees, because I mean that's clearly it's a place where people love to work, and there's lots of reasons for that. How do we bring people into that environment?
It is difficult, because one of our absolutely amazing ladies in sampling is very resistant to training anybody else, because she's so territorial in it, and we're like, you are at an age where we probably need to think about what's going to happen. No, I'll be working till I'm 70. So, okay, that's fine. You carry on working. So there are points, and I think we will have to deal with things as they come. we can't plan too much ahead, and we have to respect how people feel, because if they're happy, then a happy workforce makes life a lot easier, and there's no toxicity, and there's no there's nothing bad. Does that make sense? It's a good place.
It makes me think about you and your predecessors' leadership style. Some people can be very autocratic, some people can be very democratic. How would you describe yourself as a leader?
Probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
If not slightly, I wouldn't say dictatorial, but like if I'm adamant about something, as anyone can tell you, I can hear the voices going, yeah, but should you do that? But maybe you need to think about this, and maybe that, and I'm like, okay, and then I just do what I've.
Yeah, that's autocratic.
Yeah, that one.
just
to clarify,
just to clear that one up. But that is a challenge. Sometimes in transformational environments, you need to do that. One of the jobs, I guess, of leaders is to show the vision for the company and to say, I want you to come with me on this journey because I can see the future and it looks a bit like this. Come along with me. How do you? Well, first of all, how do you develop your vision? Because you talked earlier on about business strategy.
I very much am led by what I feel. Internalized feeling, and with the knowledge of having worked in the industry for nearly 30 years in terms of trends, colour, what we bring to market, and some of the things, our next collection we're launching looks like something from 1982, and some people that we've shown it to have gone, oh wow, that looks like something from 1985, and I'm like, yeah, that's okay, because what happens, you have to be a pioneer. You have to, brands like ours, even though we're on the smaller side, are still pioneering in design, colours, and product development and collections. So we still are the ones who bring out newness, and that 18 months, 2 years down the line, you'll find it on a high street, on a duvet. I will not mention any names of a certain high street retailer in the home furniture market. Every time I go in there is one of our collections on a duvet with a flower slightly moved. And then I think, okay, just go past it. It's going to be gone this season. And then I went in 2 days ago and I saw two other brands, their collections slightly moved. And I thought, actually, do you know what? They're off ads for a while. So it is challenging in terms of bringing newness to market and watching what's happening once you've done that. But the staff are on board with everything.
Because the key thing, I guess, as a leader, as well as setting the vision, you've got to communicate it. And you've got to communicate it in a way where people go, okay, I want to be part of that. What's your style there?
You mean in terms of customers or in terms of
the team? Of the team. So you've created a vision. This is what we're going to do. We're going to be bold. We're going to be pioneering. We're going to lead this kind of environment. And I want you to be part of that with me. There's lots of different ways to communicate that message. What's your style?
So we have a sales team which are external. So they're kind of self-employed. They're called multi-brand agents.
Okay.
So we will call them in for sales meetings, and we'll take them for dinner, and we'll allow them to speak and give their input into it. And then I'll do a presentation, and in that presentation will be my vision for the product, for the collection, and how we'd like them to sell it, and things like that. And then obviously in terms of communicating it to the wider audience, which is it's a very complex way that we work, obviously, because you're selling business to business, but you need to sell directly to the consumer in order for the consumer to go to the business to buy your product.
Yes.
So a lot of that is done through social media avenues, and so I speak directly to the customer and to their customer as well. Okay,
so you've got these ideas about bold and bright new things that are going to come on. Is there any broader sense of expansion in terms of the offering from Swaffer? Are you going to go into different environments? Are you going to sell to different people? Could you ever envisage yourself selling to the directly to the customer? No.
I tell you what, I won't be selling is online. There's a huge issue in our industry with trade customers investing in a brand and then that brand selling directly to the consumer over the trade. So we've got a strategy with that, with the sub-brand, Simply Swaffer, and that can't be sold online directly through any channel. So that is really, it's a slow burner and it's protecting the trade. So in terms of that, we're launching the third collection in it in a week. I hope to get it to four collections and then stop that for a minute and concentrate back on the main Swaffer brand as well. But in terms of selling to other arenas, it will be always through the trade. So we are working in collaboration with someone at the moment, and hopefully that will launch later this year. So our product will be available through a different arena than it has been up until now.
And does technology play a part at all in the creation of new types of fabric, and the way that people see the technology and the fabrics in their home? Are you seeing any trends there in the marketplace?
Yeah, definitely. So there's obviously a massive push on recycled fabric and wastage and things like that. So there are fabrics that we are buying that are recycled cotton and linen. There is a massive push at the moment on using hemp as a base cloth, which I find very exciting, because I do love to bring newness to market. And hemp, weirdly, is stronger than linen. So I didn't know this. So I'm learning a lot about the actual technology behind the fabric. So definitely environmentally friendly fabrics are sustainable. Is a key word at the moment, sustainable fabrics. And how they're doing it is they're using it from the textiles industry. So I'm not so keen on using plastic bottles to make fabric. And a lot of our peers are doing that. Yeah. And to me, it's about the feeling of it. It's about how it feels. And it doesn't feel natural and it doesn't feel nice. And this is a premium product and it needs to feel nice. Yeah. So mostly at Swaffer, we use natural fabrics. So we're very known for that. So we don't use man-made fibre unless it's intrinsic to that cloth, and we need to use a little bit of it. So we're very much known for natural fabrics. So yeah, it's about sustainability, and it's about using the remnants of our own industry in the manufacturing process of the cloth. We don't do that, but we buy the cloth and then we have it printed. And
I was thinking about your suppliers as well, and thinking about how you've approached that, because again, you've inherited a company that's been running for 50 years in a particular way. Have you looked at innovations in the supply chain for yourself?
Yeah. We changed that within the first 6 months. Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we now buy directly from a mill. So we've gone to Eastern Europe, Lithuania, amazing people to work with on the weaving side. So you cut out a middleman already, and obviously it's less expensive than buying. I was adamant I wanted to only buy in Britain, having been in British manufacturing for my whole career. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is becoming a very massive cost centre, and the prices from our British manufacturers have probably increased by 120%. So therefore we are unable to continue that.
It just breaks the business model at that point.
We just can't do it. We want to, but we can't do it. So our core Swaffer, because there's different types of printing, Gary. And this is, I've had to learn this. There's digital, there's VAT, there's pigmented, there's so many variations to it. And obviously that's all got a cost to it. But the way in which they produce this fabric has also got a cost to it in terms of the environment. So the old-fashioned ways, whilst they give you the best results, are the most expensive and the least environmentally friendly. Yes. So you have to diversify. You have to say, actually, we can't be part of this. Yes. And neither do I want a massive carbon footprint of buying from the Far East. So I am a little bit of a complex case, because I want to buy from Britain, but we can't afford to for the business. I don't want to go to the Far East, although that will be the best thing to do, because that's going to be the most economical. So I've middle ground. Yes, Europe.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And what are the customers asking you for then? You're working business to business. What are those people demanding of you?
They're demanding more and more. They're demanding natural products. They're demanding. This does make me laugh, because they're demanding natural product without any flaws ever. So that's a big challenge for us. So
perfection is required.
Well, you can't, and you can't. Yeah. A piece of linen, a piece of cotton is going to have natural slubs in it. It's how it is. So there is sometimes the mindset of how do we convey this and the technicalities of the product compared to the look and the aesthetic of it. People have become better post-pandemic in terms of waiting. So everybody was all in the just-in-time supply chain. It had to be, I want to order it now, I want it delivered, I want it in the shop, I want it here. Now, what we call back orders, very normal, very common, and everybody's calm about it, as long as you tell them. Yes, it's going to be 12 weeks, it's going to be 14 weeks, and I find it, I still find that incredible that people are willing to wait that long for something, because I'm this is strange, but I was on the manufacturing side, so you had to turn it around faster to get it into the store. It was a totally different model. Yeah. But I'm glad I came from the manufacturing side, because when our manufacturers give us reasons why things are late or can't be done, I know exactly where that is coming from, and then I will relate to them. I was in your role for many, many years, so please don't try that one, because it's not true.
Yeah. So just to finish up then, I'm always keen in this entrepreneurial journey where somebody makes a decision to, invest in another company or to start a company, and it's quite a big change in life. And I'm thinking about the advice that you'd be giving to other people in this kind of situation. So if you met somebody who was thinking about the same kind of activity, knowing now things that you didn't know back then, what kind of advice would you give?
I would say do it still. Just trust your gut, trust your instinct, believe in your own capabilities.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody tell you can't do something. Because as soon as they tell me I can't do something is when I become very determined to do it. But it takes over your life. It does take over your life, and I've moved away from, where I lived for like 2 decades, where my daughter went to school and grew up.
Yeah.
I've left my family behind. I've left friends behind. I've left everything that's familiar behind. And I've moved somewhere where I don't really know anybody. And I have to be honest, I find it difficult. And I find it liberating at the same time.
Yeah.
So I feel like, when you go on holiday and you don't know where you're going when you're driving, that's how I feel all the time. I'm like, I don't really know where I am. But yeah, I would say just do it. Just listen to your own instincts and don't let anybody tell you can't do something if you think you can.
I think that's a great place to finish, because actually, for anybody who might be thinking about the potential consequences of the action and that stops them, they become fearful of it. Just, giving it a go is a great thing to think about. So I appreciate that, Lorena, and I really appreciate you spending the time with me today on the Business Sense podcast.
Thank you, Kerry. It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
Great story.
Thank you.
Thank you.